In addition, you see that people sort of suggest they move. Typically, when people from my country, the Netherlands, if they move to Belgium, well, Belgium may be attractive for tax reasons, but Belgium, of course, is just, you know, very nearby. So often people moving to Belgium may still effectively, and what they hope is, without being known to the tax authorities, keep sufficient amount of ties with the Netherlands to maintain residence over there. And there you have, you know, issues of establishing the facts that may indicate whether or not the person has truly moved his residence to another country. But also in cases where people have effectively moved to another country, some countries have rules under which they keep these people for a number of years a deemed resident. That means they will be subject to tax on their worldwide income during a period of 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the law says. Of course, if in such a case the person has moved to a treaty country, the effect of the treaty and of the tiebreaker rule in respect of residence in that treaty may to a large extent frustrate the intention of the law. But where people move to a country with which there is no treaty, and countries with very low or no taxes, tax havens, typically are countries with which there are no treaties. In such a case, the continued residence, deemed residence in the country of origin is an effective means of removing the benefits for that period from this particular immigration. Other countries don't use deemed residence after immigration as a way to fight the transfer of residence. Countries may try to impose what we call an exit tax. Countries deem that the taxpayer realized when he moved to the other country, realized the capital gain where assets are involved. So the taxpayer simply, when he moves to the other country, under the law of the country that he leaves, supposed to have disposed of all his assets or particular assets. If a country, and I think the majority of countries will narrow the approach to the exit taxation to particular assets, pension rights are very high on the priority list of countries, pension rights to be taxed upon the taxpayer leaving the country. Taxpayer pension rights have usually been built during a large period, a long period during which either the employer or the employee or both have taken tax deductions in building these pension rights. So countries where those pension rights have been built over the years feel awkward when before the pension income is going to be received by the taxpayer will be paid, will be taxed on that pension income, that they will not be able to tax the income while they have allowed all those deductions for the premiums paid in the past. So therefore, you see that countries will deem often when a taxpayer is going to leave the country that he disposed of his pension right just before departure. And one of the interesting legal questions that have arisen in this context is whether, if the taxpayer moves to a country with which a country of origin has a tax treaty, whether such a taxation on this deemed disposal of pension rights is in agreement with the good faith that countries are supposed, under the rules of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, a multilateral treaty that effectively controls or set rules how countries should deal with treaties. In that Vienna Convention there is laid down that countries should behave decently. And the language used there is that countries should act in good faith. And at least in 2 countries, Supreme Courts have already pronounced that if a country is going to tax pension rights of a emigrating taxpayer by simply assuming the taxpayer disposed of those rights just prior to his emigration is a break of the good faith this country has to show for the treaty concluded with the country to which the taxpayer is moving. Now, the same as for those pension rights is often done for what they call substantial interest shares. These are shares that people may have in those professional companies we discussed a bit earlier. A next area is the use of base companies, and that involves clearly CFC rules. There are more rules, but CFC rules are by far the most widely used rules to fight the use of base companies. There are basically two things countries do through CFC rules. In the first place, many countries try to stop deferral of foreign income in one way or the other. And the one way or the other are the two which are listed here. Countries either deem the foreign company to be transparent, so the domestic parent company is supposed to derive directly the income that was effectively earned by the controlled foreign company. So the controlled foreign company's income is attributed to the domestic parent company, or the other approach is that the foreign subsidiary is supposed to have distributed its profits to the parent company. I understand that in Brazil, in your CFC rules, it's not perfectly clear whether the one approach or the other approach works. I understand from what I've understood from the 2 Eagle decisions that there is a bit of confusion as to the precise nature of how your rules work. A second aspect of CFC, I don't think that's something that Brazil practices, but what you do see in some countries is that where a domestic parent has either a foreign branch or a foreign subsidiary, countries may either deny altogether any double taxation relief in the form of an exemption or a credit, or if they normally provide an exemption, will replace it by the less favorable foreign tax credit. If you have CFC rules, almost any country, and I understand that Brazil is not one of them, almost any country will limit that, the application to the rules, to particular cases of perceived abuse. Low taxation in the foreign country or other things that may make it attractive to have income stored in a foreign country.